So in this summer 25 quilt along, I've shown you two methods for doing the reversible Pojagi patchwork seam, but there are some rare situations where those won't really work. So today I'm going to show you a third method. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, Pojagi, and embroidery. So we are well into the summer 25 quilt along, and if you don't know what the project is, you can go back in the playlist and see more details about that. But I'm sure by now you've chosen your fabric and you're getting ready to go. Now I've shown you two different methods for how we're going to sew this seam. And this seam is what makes this project so special because it's not regular 1/4 inch seams, it's a reversible seam. And that's what makes it a reversible piece. That's why it's a quilt along and not just a quilt along. But I said at the beginning that you could use any fabric you want for this. So of course, batik, quilting cotton, solids, those are all really great options, but this is also really good for upcycling. And I have a couple of pieces here that just demonstrate some more unusual fabrics that you wouldn't normally use in quilting projects. So this piece is a piece, and it's made out of old blankets, and those old like cotton blankets, and you can actually see some of the stripes on here. I had some old blankets that were getting worn. They had like holes and stuff, and so I took them, I cut them up into pieces, and I dyed the pieces different colors. So you can see this was white with like the yellow stripes, and then I cut up the pieces and sewed them together. And so here we can see it is patchwork with the seams, but because this is blanket, it had to be treated a little bit differently. And then here is another piece, and this piece, you'll see more details about this later, but this one is actually upcycled from old sweatshirts. So this is like fleece, knit fleece fabric. And so this is very different to work with. And so some of these types of fabrics, you can't use the same techniques that I showed you because you can't really press. Like you can't really press a crease in them, especially in something like a knit fleece or if it's too thick. And so if you're using a thick fabric or something that won't hold a crease, then this third method that I'm going to show you will work for this. So I'm going to demonstrate with these two pieces of knit fleece. These are also pieces left over from those sweatshirts that I cut up. And I'm going to show you how to do it with these. But of course, any type of fabric that you're using that is either thicker or it can't crease or anything like that, that you're struggling with the other two methods, then try this one and it might be the solution for you. So just like in the first technique, we're going to start with putting our fabric together. And in this case, I'm putting these wrong sides together. And we're going to have the edges offset, but we're not going to offset 1/4 inch. We're going to offset 1/2 inch. And so I can put my ruler here just to see 1/2 inch, or you can eyeball it, but it's going to be about 1/2 inch. But again, you want parallel lines. And if you try a sample with your fabric and you're having a hard time with this and you think it should be even wider, then feel free to do 3/4 inch or even 1 inch, whatever works for the fabric that you are working with. So with this heavy fleece fabric, 1/2 inch is okay. I definitely wouldn't want to go smaller. I could even go bigger, but I'm going to do 1/2 inch for this. So once we have that laid out, then we're going to go to the sewing machine and stitch 1/4 inch away from the edge of this top piece, just like in the first method. If you have a long seam, you might want to use pins to hold it, but in a short seam like this, I probably don't need pins. So once we have this sewn, now we're going to fold this edge, but we're just going to fold it over so that the two edges of fabric line up. And we can't really press this because it's not going to hold a crease. So we will fold that at the sewing machine as we are stitching. So we'll fold that as we are stitching down. So there's what it looks like when that is stitched. We can see that the edge is just folded over and stitched. So now we'll just open it up, and here is the flap with all the raw edges. We'll just top stitch right along the edge there. And as you're at the sewing machine, just kind of pull it apart a little bit just so that it opens up smoothly. So here's what that seam looks like. And we can see on this side, there's actually 3 rows of stitching that are visible. So your extra row of stitching in this method is visible. And it is much more challenging to get this seam to look neat and tidy like as in the other 2 methods. And I know I'm saying don't be a perfectionist about how your stitches look, but especially in this method. And we can also see, because on this one I was stitching with knits, and I did just use a regular presser foot. I didn't use a walking foot or anything special for the knits, that this one, the brown one, has stretched a little bit, and so it's off a bit at the ends. It's stretched a bit more than the gray fabric. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna trim that off to make a straight edge. But if you wanted to use a walking foot, that might help. But just realize that your different fabrics are going to act in different ways. So if you want to try a project that is totally different from your regular quilting project, then this might be a great option.